Hello, yoga family. I am Nathalie Saunderson. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And this channel is really dedicated to several things, and one of them is kind of demystifying and breaking down some of the spiritual and philosophy behind yoga. I'm also really passionate about helping people workshop and breaking down elements of the practice and postures. And then the other component is definitely offering you guys a lot of variety in terms of practice and style. But this video in particular, I wanted to offer and put out there before I start kind of ramping up into some more fiery, perfect for fall practices for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere. And this particular posture, Chaturanga Dandasana, is one that is very, very widely used and so often not completely understood. And so I found over the years of teaching that so many people would ask me to workshop it or need to at some point workshop it because there are elements of the posture that can easily be overlooked and over time can lead to injury. So if you're somebody who really loves your vinyasa or your power practice, then I suggest this might be just a useful moment to watch this video and check in with how you're approaching this particular movement. And so Chaturanga is actually defined as the four-limbed staff pose. And there's three things that I wanted to address and kind of give you some insights to in particular today, even though that's in itself not completely conclusive. There's a lot of elements that go into every single pose. Today's purpose, I really want to talk about the legs, the lower back core connection, and obviously the shoulders and the hand placement. So when we look at each part, I want you to understand that everything has to work at the same level in order to distribute the load of the posture evenly. So when we think about it like that, right, then we're not looking to fix one part in particular or handle a cranky shoulder or wrist. We're really thinking about how is the rest of my body helping support and integrate the action I'm taking. Another important thing before we start to move is to remember that in the action from high push-up position to Chaturanga, it moves from an inhale, right? So the inflation at the top of the plank to an exhale. So think about when you breathe down and into the posture that you're not moving super fast, right? So often when we exhale in yoga, it cues the body to release or relax something. At the same time, because you're in Chaturanga, you're not on the floor yet, you want to stay engaged but relaxed. So that's kind of your end goal that I want to have you in the back of your mind even as we workshop the different elements that we're looking at today. Let's get started. So hopefully you have access to a block because we're going to use it in several different places today. If you don't, try and grab something that can replace a block, especially as we work with the legs and the inner thighs in particular. Now this block, as you can see, is wooden and somewhat slippery, especially when you're working with kind of slidey yoga pants. So take note that whatever you choose as a kind of a medium for the inner thighs to help that hugging in action isn't too heavy and isn't going to slip right out from between your thighs. Okay, so first we're going to just try this element from the back, working our way up the pose. So as you sit back in kneeling position, I want you to lift up and take the block. So if you're looking from the front, the short edge is facing forward. If you do this, it doesn't have enough room for your thighs to adequately activate. So make sure it's the short side of the block that you're using. Okay, let's take this as high up into the inner thigh and the groin area as you can, and then walk your way forward. So already I can feel I have to hug to keep that block in place. And keeping your toes tucked, you're gonna look forward, take a big breath, and just practice the action as you exhale to come no lower than elbow height. Not here, right? So then the block kind of resists. You don't want the block to be hitting the mat. So as you look forward, try that again. Breathe in, squeeze the block, lower, pause. Inhale up. One more time, moving the shoulders down the back as you lower. Good, keeping those toes tucked, inhale up. Now you're gonna lean back and give yourself a little bit of a break. So one thing to remember when we do lift the knees off of the mat is that you're looking forward with your gaze as you lower, and you're looking forward, drawing your energy forward through the chest as you're pressing back through your heels, right? So everything's kind of elongating at the same time. The musculature is hugging in to sustain the effort evenly in the body. Okay, so now let's try 3 times At the bottom, when we finish the exhale, we're going to drop the knees and move back to child's pose. Just focusing on the legs. And again, you want to make sure that the hand placement is right underneath the shoulders. You want to look underneath, make sure that block is still as high as you can get it into the inner thighs. When you inhale to lift the knees up, relax your face, breathe in. Exhale, no lower than the elbows, right? And this is where you'd go to upward facing. You're just going to lift up, move back. Follow your breath. Inhale forward, squeeze that block, lift the knees, exhale. Drop the knees, lift back. Relax your jaw. Exhale forward to plank. Inhale, hug that block. Lower down. You can feel that action in the legs. Press back. And walk your hands in. Okay, that's one element that I want you to think about when you're lowering. So the legs are active, right? They have to be active. You can even feel your thighs engaged, your kneecaps drawing up the legs. And you can imagine like your heels are trying to press to the wall behind you. Okay, the next element that we're going to look at is the low belly. So when we're lowering down, you can think about the tailbone tucking slightly to the heels. So I'll show you an example, and I'll place my block pretty much right where I want to have the between the navel and the pubic bone land. When I'm leaning forward, and you might need to adjust a few times, that's okay. So when I lean forward, I'm inhaling. Generally, this is where I would comfortably sit until I start to integrate that tucking of the tailbone. Then I press my heels back. When I'm looking forward, I'm lowering down, but I'm not actually touching the block. As soon as you touch the block, you've gone too low. So you can see that the block's on the lowest height, right? If you want to get fancy and really refine, again, everybody has a different body, different dimensions for our entire arm length. This second height is a good indicator of how low you want to go. So let's try and see how close we are. Okay, so as you come to your plank position, tuck your tailbone lower. Right about where you land is as low as then you go. Lift up and over, right? So we're going to try that a few times. What I want you to notice as well is not just the tucking of the tailbone. So if you take two fingers on either side of your belly button and imagine tucking your tailbone down and knitting these muscles in. Okay, so as you do that, you can naturally see as I work this that my shoulders want to come forward. That's where the last part of the posture comes in, the shoulders. So just try this action in your core. Press your tailbone down, feel the sides of the belly come in and kind of knit towards the navel as the strong legs are reaching back. Let's try that 3 times. Okay, so you can choose if this feels like it's really challenging for you. Take the block to the lowest height and just know that you don't want to make contact with that block. So you're being really aware of going too low to the ground, okay? Stepping in, take that inhale, plank pose. Shoulders right over the wrists, look forward, tailbone back, ribs in, exhale. Drop the knees, inhale back, exhale forward. Hug the legs in, inhale. Feel the sides of the belly knit in, exhale. Drop the knees, sling back. Exhale forward. Now you're really weighing each fingertip pad into the floor. Tuck the tail, lift the belly up and in. Inhale, exhale. You're going to start to feel this. Drop the knees. You might even find that it doesn't feel like you're going low enough because you've been creating a habit where you're really slinking your chest down and forward. I like to call it the bottom feeder chest, right? Where those of us that go really low and then into upward facing, but what that's actually doing is creating a lot of pressure in your lower back. And over time, that's just going to basically take away the opening from your chest. Okay, so stay with me. The last part of this is the chest itself. So for people, because we are all built so beautifully and uniquely different, it's important that you start to understand if you're somebody that carries a lot of natural tension in your upper body, then I'm going to suggest that you actually take your hands wider, very slightly wider than your shoulders. And I'll show you why. So when you are coming down, and I'm going to keep this here now for my chest, so I don't want to land my chest on here. When you're coming down, chances are your shoulders are going to be getting tired and rounding forward. So without much awareness of this habit, I'm going to come into my plank pose. I'm going to press back. I got my belly tucked. I'm leaning forward, but then I'm starting to get tired, and I'm going to, your shoulders start to go up to the ears quite quickly. Okay? So what you want to do, if you're somebody who's already quite tight or had injuries or works on a computer or has any rounding or kyphosis in your upper back, is to come forward, feel that space, right? There's more space here. Lug your shoulders down your back, lift your gaze, and then there's so much more room to bend your elbows. Okay? The other thing I want you to watch is that when you're lowering down, you're looking forward. Now, if this action, traditionally you look forward, does not feel good in your upper back, if you have extensive compression in that area, then I want you to look down until your shoulders have more mobility in this action of range of movement. So again, I'll say that one more time. If when you look forward and you lower, it feels really painful and gets very tight very quickly in your upper back, I suggest, and this is just a suggestion, that you look down and work on keeping your shoulder blades and guiding them down your back for however long it takes until you create more mobility in your upper back. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like. You step back, and again, all of this, if you're new, can be like worked on from the knees on the floor. So start where you are, embrace where you're at. If you're here, hug in, thighs on, tailbone tucked, big breath in, shoulders down. Good, lowering slowly. Okay, if you find that that's too much, you're gonna lift back up, big breath in, look down, shoulders down the back, and lower. Drop the knees. You're gonna find that often the shoulder that's the weaker shoulder is gonna stand out and start to ache first. Okay, when that starts to happen, I want you to be conscious that you're not continuing to push yourself to always take the most full version of a vinyasa. So your goal when you start to move a little bit into the swifter currents of movement or more heat, the powerful practices, it's not to become the strongest version of you right away. It's actually to slowly nudge yourself towards meeting that strength as you also build your ability to stay relaxed in that strength. Okay, so we're going to do 3 more together, and I want you to remember hugging the legs in as you extend back through the feet, tucking your tailbone to between your heels, knitting the side ribs in, the side of your belly in, ribs also knit in a little bit. Pressing your heart forward and gliding those shoulders down. Observe what the neck needs, whether you look forward or straight down to the floor. Okay, the finger pads, you want to imagine that you're playing the piano, so you don't want to feel this lifting up of the inner hands. Do the best you can. If you need to watch this video a few times in practice, fantastic. You're going to notice something different every time. Let's do 3 more together, setting it up with a lot of attention. So spreading the hands, inhale, reach forward. Exhale, stepping your feet back. They're hips distance, hugging those thighs in. Breathe in, tailbone tucks, belly lifts. Shoulders move back as you exhale. Nice and slow, a relaxed jaw. Lean back, inhale, come out of the intensity. Exhale into your plank. Fire up the legs, press your heels back, your chest forward. Maybe your neck needs this. Looking down, breathe in. Hug the shoulders on your back and lower, just above the elbows. Drop the knees. Slide back. Inhale, last one. Find everything working just as much, evenly, hugging in. Hug the arms in, legs in, look forward or down. Tuck the tail, exhale, lower. Good. Lean back, breathe in, and slowly round your way up. Now you've probably already found that you've created a lot of heat in your upper body. If you continue to integrate to that degree every single time, you won't need to do as many vinyasas or chaturangas, and you'll still be able to create the same effect and the same amount of opening, strength, and space in your upper body. I hope this was helpful. If you love breaking down all things yoga related, then hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.